Okay, class, so today we're going to work on if you're given the equation of a parabola in standard form. Your standard form would be your ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. You want to find the focus and the directrix. So let's take a look at how to find the focus and the directrix given a parabola in vertex form. Okay, so this is what we did last week. So remember, the first thing you want to do is you want to identify what the vertex of the parabola is. So the vertex is 5, 5. Now I want to find what the p-value is. Remember, the p-value, which comes from over here, the -8, this actually represents 4p. Remember, that's 4p, that -8. So I have 4p is equal to -8. So p, when I divide both sides by 4, is equal to -2. So remember, since p is -2, that means I'm going to be going down 2 from my vertex to my focus. All right, so let's draw a little picture here over on the side. So I have 5, 5, and I'm going to be moving up and down from there. So here's x, y, 5, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And right there would be my vertex. So I'm going to put a V for vertex. So, okay, so now I want to find my focus. So remember, my P over here is the distance from the vertex to the focus. And since it's negative, it's going to be going down 2. So I'm going to count down 2 from my vertex to my focus down 2. So I'm going to count 2 on the side here on the left along the y-axis down 2. I'm starting here. So I have 1, 2. So my focus is right here. Focus. And that point there would be 5, 3. All right, now we want to find what the directrix is, the equation of the directrix. So now remember, my parabola here is opening concave. Which way do you think? Concave? Down. Because remember, my parabola has to hug the focus, so it's going to be this way. So if I am going down to my focus to find my directrix, I have to go in the opposite direction. I actually have to go up 2 now. So I'm going to count up 2 from the vertex. So I need a little bit more on the side over here. So count up 2 now. So 1, 2, which would be right here. That would be my directrix. And that is y is equal to, count up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Y is equal to 7. So I just want to write it over here on the side. My focus, 5, 3. And my directrix is y is equal to 7. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is find the focus and the directrix given the parabola in standard form. So now just take a look up here at this equation in vertex form. Notice that I have an x minus 5 squared over here. So hopefully you recall that when we complete the square, yes, I did say complete the square, we do have a parentheses squared. So that is what we're going to do to this equation here that's in standard form. We're actually going to complete the square to get it in vertex form. So we're going to go from standard form up to, like what we have up here, which is vertex form. And we do that by completing the square. Okay, so the first thing we want to do to take care of this is start by grouping all of our x's together. All right, so that's step 1. So let's write that down. Group the x's together. Group the x's together. Okay, so along with that first step, I'm going to write down step number 2 now. I want to move the y and the constant to the other side. So let's put that down for step 2. Move the y and constant. The constant is the number that has no x or y with it. So we want to move the x and the y and the constant to the other side. Okay, so I'm going to group my x's together, and then I'm going to also move my y and my constant to the other side. So I do not want it to be equal to 0 anymore. So I'm going to take my x's, put them together, and take my y's and constant and put it to the other side. So I have x squared minus 4x. Now I'm going to take my negative 4y, add it to the other side, and minus 12 to the other side. So add 4y to both sides, I get 4y, and minus 12 to both sides, and I get minus 12 on the other side. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we actually want to complete the square. Now when we complete the square, we want to complete the square only for the x values. Okay, you want to take this to the point right before you square root both sides in completing the square. So let's write that down. Complete the square for the x's. Complete the square for the x's. And you also want to put here, take to the point right before you square root both sides. All right, so over here, remember when I complete the square, I want to do half of what b is. B is negative 4, so half of negative 4 is negative 2. Square it, I get positive 4. I want to take that number, add it to both sides. So I'm going to add it over to there, and I'm going to add it right to after the 4x. So I have x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 4y minus 12 plus 4. So now I do want to add this right here, the negative 12 plus 4. So negative 12 plus 4, so this is 4y, and that would be negative 8. Now over here, remember I want to factor. So I get x and x. Remember, the number that goes right here is your half value, half of b. When I took half of b, I got negative 2. That's the value that goes inside the parentheses, so it's minus 2, minus 2. I have the same parentheses, so I want to write that with a square. So that's x minus 2 squared is equal to 4y minus 8. So now, with completing the square, I am at the point where I would actually take the square root of both sides. But I don't want to take the square root of both sides. Notice that this is starting to look like the vertex form for a parabola. Right, I have this parentheses squared over here. So now it's this side that I have to take care of. It's the y side. So step 4 is to, on the y side, factor out the GCF so that the y value, just the y, has a has a coefficient of a 1. All right, so let's take a look at the y side over here. So I need my y to have a coefficient of a 1. Right now it has a coefficient of a 4. I need it to be a 1. So to make that a 1, I need to factor out 4. So I have 4 times y minus 2. And that equals x minus 2 squared on the other side. So now notice that I am now in the vertex form for a parabola. So step 5, which will be our last step, is to follow the rules for finding the directrix and focus given the vertex form. Okay? Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to identify the vertex. The vertex is 2, 2. And I want to find the p-value. Remember, this 4 over here represents 4p. So I have 4p is equal to 4. Divide both sides by 4. I get p is equal to 1. Okay, so now let's draw a picture. And we'll plot the vertex. So remember, this is x and y. I have my vertexes 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 2, 2 is my vertex. And now I have my p is equal to 1. So remember, my p is the distance from vertex to focus. So if it's 1, it's going to be going up 1. So from my vertex, I'm going to count up 1 unit to get to my focus. So up 1 unit, that's my focus. And that point is 2, 3. So now to find my directrix, remember the directrix, your D, since I'm going up 1 for my focus, I have to go down 1 for my directrix, because recall that this parabola has to open up so that it hugs my focus. So the directrix has to be below that. So my directrix is actually going to be now down 1 unit. So I count down 1 unit from the vertex. Down 1 unit would be right here. And here's my directrix, which is y is equal to 1, because it's going through the y-axis at 1. So over here on the side, I'm going to write my final answer. The focus is 2, 3. And my directrix is y is equal to 1. Okay, so let's take a look at some more problems. Example number 2. And the same thing, it says to find the focus and the directrix of the parabola. Notice that the parabola is in standard form. Okay, so I am first going to group my x's together. So I have an x squared and an 8x. And I'm going to take my 2y and subtract that, and take my positive 18 and subtract that one. So I have x squared plus 8x. Subtract 2y, I get negative 2y. And subtract 18, I get negative 18. Okay, so now I want to complete the square for my x value. So remember, I want to do half of b, which is positive 8. Half of positive 8 is positive 4. Squared is positive 16. And I'm going to add that to both sides. Add it to over here and right in here. We get x squared plus 8x is equal to plus 16 is equal to negative 2y minus 18 plus 16. Now we want to add negative 18 and 16. Negative 18 plus 16 is negative 2, so it's negative 2y minus 2. And I want to factor this side right here. Remember, my factors will be the same. So So I have x and x. The number that goes inside my factors are always what I got when I did half of b, which is positive 4. So plus 4 plus 4. I have two of the same factors. I write it using a square. X plus 4 squared is equal to negative 2y minus 2. Now what I want to do is I want to get my y value to have a coefficient of a 1. Right now it has a coefficient of negative 2. So I have to factor out the negative 2. So I have x plus 4 squared equals, factor out the negative 2, times y plus 1. Okay, that'll give me negative 2 when I distribute the negative 2. Let's now identify the vertex. My vertex is negative 4, comma, negative 1. We want to identify what our p-value is. So remember, this number here is 4p. So 4p is equal to negative 2. So that means p is equal to negative 1/2 when I divide both sides by 4. Okay, so now it is a half, and that's okay because we could still do this. Don't get freaked out because it's a half. All right, so remember, let's draw a picture over here on the side, and we'll plot points. Don't make the picture too small because we are dealing with a half here. Okay, so let me get rid of this. Notice that my vertex is negative 4 and negative 1, so I want to be a little bit over more to the left side, so I don't want to cram it in here. Okay, so there's my x, y value. I have negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4, and negative 1. And I'm going to go down one more for negative 2. All right, so let's plot the vertex, negative 4, negative 1. Put a V there so you know that that's the vertex. So remember, my focus is drawn from my vertex, and that's my p-value. So if my p-value is negative 1/2, that means for my focus, okay, I want to go down 1/2. Okay, so from the vertex, I want to go down 1/2. So right here would be negative 1.5. So go down 1/2 would put me at my focus. There's my focus, which would be negative 4, comma, negative 1.5. Now, which way is this opening? Is it concave up or is it concave down? So I notice that my focus is below my vertex, so it's concave down. That means my directrix has to be above my vertex, has to be up here someplace. So if I'm going down for my focus, for my directrix, I actually have to go up 1/2. Has to go in the opposite direction. So right here would put me at negative 0.5. So go up 1/2 from my vertex. So go up 1/2 would put me right here. And there's my directrix, which is y is equal to negative 0.5. So let's just write this up. I have a focus of negative 4, comma, negative 1.5, and a directrix of y is equal to negative 0.5, or if you write negative 1/2, that's the same thing. Okay, so let's take a look at problem number 3. Again, we're going to start off with the same way. We're going to group our x's together. Oh, and look at this. My x's are already grouped together. I just actually have to move my 3y and my 10 to the other side. All right, so I have x squared. I'm going to write it over here. Plus 10x minus 3y from both sides. I get negative 3y. And minus 10, I get negative 10. Now let's complete the square. I want to do half of positive 10, which is positive 5, squared is 25, and I'm going to add that to both sides over there. So I have x squared plus 10x plus 25 is equal to negative 3y minus 10 plus 25. All right, so negative 10 plus 25 is positive 15, so it's negative 3y plus 15. And over here, I'm going to factor this. I have x and x. Remember, the number that goes inside is my half, the number I got when I did half of 10, which is positive 5. All right, so I get plus 5 inside and plus 5 inside. So that's x plus 5 squared is equal to negative 3y plus 15. All right, so remember, now I want my y value to have a coefficient of a 1. It actually has a coefficient of negative 3, so I have to factor out a negative 3. X plus 5 squared is equal to negative 3 times y minus 5. All right, so let's identify our vertex. The vertex is negative 5, comma 5. Now, this number here is my 4p. So I have here 4p is equal to negative 3. Yes, I'm going to get another fraction. So p, when I divide both sides by 4, is negative 3/4. Or if you want to write it as negative 0.75 because you're more comfortable with that, you can. All right, so now let's draw a picture. So over here, I have negative 5. Actually, I'm going to, let me erase this because I notice I have to go out to the left, negative 5. So I have xy. I'm going out to negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And plot your vertex, which is negative 5, 5, and put a V there. Okay, so now let's find our focus. So our focus, remember, is coming from the vertex. Notice this is my p-value. My p-value is negative 0.75. That means I'm going down negative 0.75. So my focus is down negative 0.75. All right, so right over here on the side, if I'm at 5 and I'm going down negative 0.75, that's going to put me right here at 4.25. 4.25. All right, so that's going to put me here. My focus will be negative 5, comma, 4.25. All right, so that's my focus. I went down, so that means my directrix, I actually have to go up 0.75. So that's going to put me up here at 5.75 for my directrix, which is right there. Draw in my line. Y is equal to 5.75. So now let's just write the whole thing up. My focus is negative 5, comma, 4.25. And my directrix is Y is equal to 5.75. Okay, so that's it, everybody. I know it was a little long today, but it was just a lot of work. But it should be all work that we are familiar with. So I will see you tomorrow in class. Have a good night, everyone.